In this video, I'm going to explain how the Wizard platform ranks higher and gets more SEO traffic versus a comparable WordPress website, while also saving you a ton of time and money in the process, with evidence directly from Google Search Central and some interesting case studies online. Not to mention how you can get Google Lighthouse scores like this and sub 1 second load times, and you can get the exact same thing in just seconds by setting up a website on the Wizard platform. So let's begin. So first, let's start with what Google says, and this is taken directly from Google's official Search Central website. In August of 2021, Google is implementing what is known as the Page Experience Update, which takes the following signals into a higher priority. These include your core web vitals, being mobile friendly, having HTTPS, which is the secure icon right here, and no intrusive interstitials, which generally relates to pop-ups blocking content and making it harder for your visitors to get to what they want to read. So starting with the core web vitals, which are LCP, FID, and CLS right here, you can actually test these for free on gtmetrics.com. So what we ensured is that the Wizard platform and all the websites built on the platform have green web vitals and tried to make these scores as perfect as possible. In comparison, I've tested hundreds of WordPress websites, and the average WordPress site is usually failing at least one of these web vitals, not to mention a much slower fully loaded time. So the next signal is being mobile friendly, and every single Wizard website is mobile friendly right out of the box, as you can see here, and they also look great on iPads and other tablets, and it's basically built to be responsive for any device right out of the box. Now, HTTPS relates to having the secure lock icon here in the top bar if you're on Chrome. And if you're missing HTTPS, you'll usually see a not secure message in red. So if your site is not secure, it will penalize your Google rankings. I've seen a lot of WordPress websites that surprisingly actually have the not secure, even though they have an SSL certificate, it's not implemented because they haven't enabled it. And the last one, no intrusive interstitials. As you can see here, there's no invasive pop-ups that is blocking the content or anything like that. Next, I want to draw your attention to this really cool case study done by rebootonline.com. They did a long-term shared hosting experiment where they actually tested a number of WordPress websites, and the only difference between them was using AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, versus shared hosting. Now, if you have a WordPress website, chances are you're using a shared hosting provider. Some examples of a shared hosting provider would be Bluehost, HostGator, DreamHost, SiteGround. All of these primarily have shared hosting, which means you're sharing not only one server, but also an IP address with many other people. And the reason this is disadvantageous is because some people on your same server and IP address could be doing some things that are getting penalized on Google, thus blacklisting your IP and hurting your rankings. And as you can see here in this chart, over time, all of the AWS sites, nearly all of them, outranked every single shared hosting website. Now, the reason this is relevant to Wizard is that every single Wizard site is hosted on the AWS platform, and we do not use any of the cheap shared hosting where you share an IP address and a server with many other customers. The Amazon Web Services infrastructure is what has allowed us to reach these sub 1 second load times right out of the box. Now, the most interesting thing about this experiment, which is the most scientific A/B test I've seen between cloud hosting such as AWS and cheap shared hosting, or even not necessarily cheap, but just shared hosting, is that they switched the websites that were on the shared host over to AWS mid-experiment, and they switched all the AWS websites that were ranking higher over to the cheap shared hosting. Now, as you can see here, during this period where they did the switch, you will see a reversal in the results. What was once the AWS websites that were ranking higher than the shared hosting, they actually gradually declined after that point. And then the shared hosting, which was ranking considerably lower, switched over to AWS and started to gradually increase in ranking. So this is the most fair case study I've seen. And again, why this is relevant is because every single Wizard customer's website is automatically built on the AWS infrastructure. This means that every single customer's site has best-in-class performance, security, and scalability to even millions of visitors. AWS is the same infrastructure used at companies such as Twitter, Netflix, and NASA. Now, what I want to point out though is that This is only comparing the hosting. Even if you use AWS, you will not have perfect Google Lighthouse scores and even perfect core web vitals right out of the box unless you design your website to do so. So it is possible to have AWS and not have load times or core web vitals such as this. Lastly, I want to show you one more research study that details the effect that load times have on conversions. This study was actually referenced on an official thinkwithgoogle.com blog. So some of the findings include that a 100 millisecond delay in website load time can hurt conversion rates by 7%. Now that's only 1/10 of a second. Now our load times, which on average are sub 1 second out of the box, you can compare these to the average WordPress load times, which I've generally seen around the 4, 5, or 6 second range. Now every second is 1,000 milliseconds, so that is a huge difference between the average performance of a wizard website versus the average performance of a WordPress website, thus hurting conversions. In addition to that, they found that a 2-second delay in web page load time increases bounce rates by 103%. Again, looking back at this, with less than 1 second load time compared to even a 3-second load time of 3,000 milliseconds, the bounce rate would increase by over 100%. And lastly, 53% of mobile site visitors will leave a page that takes longer than 3 seconds to load. Now that's obviously not good news for most of the websites which I've tested on WordPress, which again then takes longer than 3 seconds on average. I've seen 4, 5, up to 10 seconds or even longer. So to summarize, whether it's to get higher rankings and better SEO results and traffic through technical SEO optimization, or just simply a better customer user experience, thus increasing your conversions, signups, and sales, it really is an advantage to have your website optimized right out of the box to get your load times below 2 seconds, 1 second if possible, because this will only help your business. Now, in my experience, having used WordPress for many years and reading every single article on how to speed up your WordPress website or optimize your WordPress website, it generally requires quite a bit of technical knowledge, a lot of premium plugins that you thus have to configure, caching plugins, CDNs, and also having to upgrade your web hosting at the end of the day. Even if your WordPress site is able to achieve these load times, you have to think of the other factors such as the Google Lighthouse scores, the core web vitals, and also are you sharing an IP address with a lot of other customers who may be actually hurting your SEO by getting blacklisted on Google. Now, what's cool about the Wizard platform is you can create a website that gets scores similar to this in just seconds. All you have to do is visit wizard.org and do the simple 2-step sign up, and then you're going to get a site that has comparable scores right out of the box, built on the AWS platform as we showed in the case study. Now I want to show you some best practices to ensure that your Wizard website stays fast with superior load times, because there are things that you can do to slow down any website platform by not doing these best practices. So the number one thing I recommend everyone to do is that if you're going to use the royalty-free image library or you're adding your own images, is to actually save the image first to your computer by right-clicking and then clicking Save Image As. So I have the image downloaded here, and the first thing I would do is to resize the image. Now the objective is we're going to compress the image to make sure it's as small as possible but still usable. And generally with most images, they are too big. So we can actually lower the size of this because this is only going to be used for a profile picture. So as you can see here, I changed the width and the height to 200 by 200. We can actually even go less. And you can see that the size goes from 35 kilobytes to just 6 kilobytes. So as you can see here, because the profile picture is a very small part of the website, it doesn't need to be a huge size. And thus we've saved roughly 80% of this image's file size. In addition, you can also optimize your logo. So let me show you how to do that. If you don't want to change the size of your image, you can also use this free tool called compressor.io. Now I'm going to take that logo that you see here, which is already on my homepage, and I'm going to drag and drop it into compressor.io. And you can see it used to be 12 kilobytes, and we actually saved 60% off that down to just 5 kilobytes. So all you have to do is download this and then take it back to your site. I'm going to replace the logo here. So I've just added the new logo, and to be honest, you probably can't even tell much of a difference. So there we go. We have our smaller profile picture, and we also have our compressed logo. They look the exact same because they aren't that big, but you can do this for every image. So for example, the featured image here is a larger image, but even this has a lot of saving. So here's the featured image. I've just added it, and you can see we saved 54%. We took it down from 76 kilobytes down to just 35. All you have to do is download that file and then add it to your featured image and then save, and it's the exact same thing for half the size. So we've effectively saved between 50 to 70% on all of our images here, and everything looks pretty much the same as it did before. So that is pretty much it for now. When it comes to the other technical optimizations, we are handling all of that in the back end, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And in the near future, we will also be compressing all of your images for you. So this is another thing that you won't have to do in the future, just right now while we are in beta. So I hope that gives you some idea of the performance mindset that we have when building this product. And we're going to continue staying up to date on the latest trends in web development to ensure that your Wizard website stays fully SEO optimized, and you don't have to download any plugins. You don't have to do any updates or maintenance week to week. We will handle all of that for you so you can focus on what matters, which is getting more SEO results and traffic, converting that traffic into leads, and ultimately sales. So I hope this video was informative. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below, or feel free to reach out via the live chat at the bottom right of any page on the Wizard dashboard. Keep watching the rest of this video series for more SEO tips and how to get the most out of Wizard. And as always, give us a follow on Twitter at wizard_org for the latest product updates and to give us your feedback. Thank you for watching this video.